for today's presentation is EnvisionIT in New York State, a model for teaching 21st century skills and empowering students with disabilities. Okay, here we go. So first, just a very brief introduction. And again, I've got Mary with me in the room here. Feel free again to send over anything in the chat with her, but she's the Assistant Director for the Institute for Innovative Transition, and I am a graduate assistant here. And I've been working on EnvisionIT for the Institute now for 2 years, and it's been a wonderful experience, so we're happy to answer any of your questions, and hopefully we all find this fruitful. I know in many of the emails that I've been sending out and inundating you with, I've been recommending that you guys check out the handouts. That the link that's posted here will remain active after the webinar is over. So that you can go and check out these handouts. I just want to briefly walk you guys through those if you haven't gotten a chance to do that. So I'm going to flip screens here for a second. Okay. So the first which that you'll see when you go into that folder is this empirical paper that's based on an experimental study that was done looking at the effectiveness of EnvisionIT. Really, really useful and certainly a seminal piece of literature to be consulted for researchers and practitioners with this curriculum. The second thing that you'll see in there is what's referred to as the stratified sitemap. This is an integral part of the EnvisionIT curriculum, and I know I benefited from this tremendously when I taught the course, as well as the teachers that I work with now in implementing this. So that's in the folder as well. And again, this kind of gives you an overview of the curriculum, and we're going to go through this a bit in the webinar itself. This is what's referred to as the fact sheet. More or less, it's a flyer. It's got all of the great and essential contact information on it for connecting with OSU, and also to take to an administrator, perhaps, or a teacher, and really giving a succinct overview of EnvisionIT. And last but not least, we have the EnvisionIT teacher's guide, what's referred to as the teacher's guide, and this is going to be your best friend, especially with this curriculum. Everything is linked within it, but it really breaks down every facet of teaching this course from the moment that you sign up to anything that needs to happen within the learning management system Schoology. And again, we will talk some about that as well in this webinar. And more or less the generic Schoology beginner's guide was also included, just for anyone who really is new to Schoology as a learning management system. Okay. So this is our agenda for today. I know that I had that posted up online for you guys. It's right at 4:05, right where we should be at. As we move through, you guys will notice that I have these animations, arrows, circles, highlights, all this stuff. What I've done is actually built that, I've customized it into a PowerPoint that will be turned into a PDF and shared on the Institute's website. So when you go and you look at this PDF, all of those edits will be shown on a kind of slide by slide basis. So don't worry about taking notes or highlighting certain things if you've printed this out after the fact. So you'll see that everything is built in here. Okay, so the first major topic that I want to go through with folks is the background on EnvisionIT in New York State. So there's three real pieces to this. The first piece is the history and purpose behind the curriculum, which I'm going to talk some briefly. Benefits for students, transition planning and IEP development, which is an essential part of this and what we do. And then finally, this notion of creating a college and career ready culture in your school through this program. So a little bit on the history and purpose of the curriculum, walking us back here to 2003, Ohio State began development of EnvisionIT, and through this they were able to access a substantial grant through the Stepping Stones of Technology and Innovation grant, specifically with and under the U.S. Department of Ed. And from here, they did quite a bit of piloting in schools and further refinement of the curriculum, which led to a call for scaling up. And the Institute for Innovative Transition was fortunate enough to be awarded a subcontract as a part of that. And that grant really brought EnvisionIT to the Institute. And from here, really our mission down at the bottom is focused on this idea of delivering and collecting data on the sites that we have been managing. The one that I've been really a part of is the one that's located at East High in the Rochester City School District. But in particular, just looking at issues of sustainability in these schools, and making sure that we can figure out a way to work with teachers to make sure that this becomes really an integral part and aspect of whatever school adopts it. So that's really been our main focus here. So with respect to benefits for student transition and planning, this has been, arguably, my favorite piece of this curriculum is this idea of, really being super student-centered and really targeting these three things. So EIT helps students with kind of isolating and figuring out their own learning styles and career interests. I did a focus group yesterday at East High, and the students were remarking on this. So this isn't just something that's purported and talked about. The students remark on this as well, which is really important. Finding potential career match, and this is not only expanding on the types of careers that are possible for young people, but finding new careers as well. And through this, really empowering them to set their own goals and achieve those goals in a really manageable way through the planning process that occurs with this curriculum. And there's obviously connections here for promoting student self-determination with the family, making sure that the family is a part of this process too, bringing a lot of this content home and having those conversations. Many pieces of this curriculum can really easily meet transition goals of the IEP and can be brought in that respect too. And also, involving family members of all kinds. Like I said yesterday, I was doing a focus group over at East, and they were talking about how they're bringing up pieces of this curriculum that they've worked on in various activities with their aunts and with their grandmothers, relatives. So really, this is something that certainly transcends the school context. And then in terms of thinking about how we can use this curriculum and really in a sustainable way create a culture in schools. EnvisionIT teaches students how to look for a job, selecting right college or most appropriate college for them, post-secondary ed, completing online job and college applications. This is explicitly a piece that's built into this curriculum. Setting and achieving career goals. Again, this is it's made explicit, and the students know that it really becomes a part of this process for them. And we'll talk a little bit more about goal setting and transition setting as we moving forward. But again, ultimately, really, what we want for our young people, and what this curriculum does a great job doing, is setting them up such that they can really meaningfully navigate college, and actively think about ways to move in meaningful and self-directed terms into the workforce here. So just as a little overview. Okay. So I want to spend some time now that I've given you a little bit of a taste of what's a part of this curriculum. I want to give you a little bit of a walkthrough. And if you have that stratified sitemap that was uploaded online in front of you, if you've printed it out, feel free to reference that as well. Another piece of this that I want to just point your attention to for a second is that as we move throughout the PowerPoint, you'll see that I have things that are hyperlinked. You shouldn't be able to click on them at this point, but once I take this and convert it into a PDF and upload it on the Institute for Innovative Transitions website, you'll be able to download this, and all of these links will be clickable so that you can access them after the fact. So if I am referencing or talking about a certain video or whatever, you can go back and reference that later. So don't worry about that. So here are the three kind of steps that I want to walk through here in terms of breaking down the curriculum. The first of which is talking in more detail about the stratified sitemap. So one of the first things when I started working with OSU that they brought to my attention was the fact that the stratified sitemap kind of looks like the Jamaican flag, and I always thought that was kind of funny, and it stuck with me. But it's really important that we do pay attention to these colors because it can really help streamline the way in which you are designing the curriculum to best meet the needs of your students, and also time too. So it's funny, but so here we go. So here's the content key up here. We can see that the green content is required, yellow is recommended, red is encouraged, and I'm going to break that down a little bit here as well. Okay, so in terms of the recommended content, you can see that does make up a significant portion of the total content that's offered on the stratified sitemap here. And here's our required content, and then we also have our encouraged or strongly recommended content down here as well. The really important thing to note is that although you might not have enough time to teach this course perhaps in a half a year or in a full year, this really allows you to break it down so that you can manage and meaningfully parcel out pieces that are essential and non-essential when using this curriculum. As you move throughout that stratified sitemap, you'll also see that the unit name and number is at the top. Everything's very clearly marked, and it's also broken down into objectives that you'll see, and these objectives will change as you move through each unit right at the top. Here's an example. So for example, you'll see up here, Unit 5, Train for Your Career. That's the name of the unit. And then we have these objectives that are very clearly listed: career readiness, financial literacy, and then we have our ICT-based objectives. And then if we take a look at Unit 8 here for a second, we'll see that, again, we have the same level and degree of objectives that are trying to be covered, just as robust, but we have this change in the focus with the ELA Common Core here. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so in terms of specific features that are built into this within the recommended, required content in particular, we'll see that there are group discussion activities that are actively built in throughout, and they're oftentimes bolded. Here's an example of what that would look like in Schoology itself. As well, in addition to the group discussion activities that are always built in, we have a lot of individual activities. And again, those are usually bolded. And this is a really good example of what one of those individual activities looks like. Everything's always enumerated, very clear for students to be able to do this independent work with the support of the teacher. Just a note here, when students are uploading their assignments, you'll see that their submission will pop right up in the corner here. Just a kind of a taste of the really user-friendly structure that is Schoology. In addition, when students are working on these individual activities, we'll see that at the bottom of each page, they include links to the activity itself in Word and PDF format. Again, I just wanted to draw your attention to this because this is explicitly built into the curriculum on each individual and group activity. Okay. You'll also notice when you're flipping through there that there's a pre-quiz at the start of each unit, as well as a final quiz here. And I do have some suggestions throughout this, which you can go and look at when I have my the version of this PDF posted online. In addition, there's reading built into almost every item, the one little tricky thing here, and I just wanted to point this out because when I piloted this course at East High last spring, I kind of fell into this trap a little bit, but there's pieces of recommended and required content that are oftentimes built into the quizzes. So it's really important that you're making sure that whatever you are ultimately bringing into the curriculum or into your classroom is aligning, or that you tweak your pre and post quizzes to obviously match the content that you're delivering to students. This is an example of a page that I would consider having very light amount of text on it. We can see that there's graphics, tons of stuff to click on. Here's a good example of an activity or a pretty straightforward page where we have an average amount of reading is here, but also we can see that there's this is a really good example of what I would characterize as a reading page that also has media built into it as well from OSU, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. We can also see, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that there is a transcript for accessibility purposes for students, and obviously you could access that through Word and apply a screen reader for students' use. So when they were to go in and actually click on the transcript, what we can see here is this is what it would look like. It actually appears in Google Docs, and the really cool thing is that we can download that as a Word document, as a PDF, the other thing that I kind of want to draw your attention to here as well is with a lot of the downloading that occurs for this class, just because there are so many materials, you'll see that you'll need to create a really explicit structure for saving content with your students here. And I'd be happy to talk about some strategies for that at the end. But I just want to make a note here that there is going to be a lot of paper potentially, just through activities or through printing documents. So something certainly to consider or to think about when using this curriculum. So testing strategies are also built in explicitly in preparation for those final quizzes. And again, be happy to share or talk about that. Okay, so it looks like we're running a little behind here, but I do want to move us through Schoology. This will be a pretty quick introduction. Just again to kind of give you a taste of what it looks like, and especially having this curriculum being embedded in it so much. So just a note here, if you do go into your into that Schoology teacher's guide that OSU provides that's explicitly designed with EnvisionIT in mind. The first few pages are designed to provide you with really step-by-step directions on how to do this. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those over email or at the end, but I just wanted to point that out. But this is Schoology, and this is the learning management system that's housing the EIT curriculum. Okay, so just a few features here that I wanted to point to that I found really useful in using this, and I know that teachers I work with now are finding it really useful as well. So this is what it looks like when you're viewing student assignments. We can see that we have all the various individual activities here that are posted, and then when you have students' grades or their submissions, they kind of pop up here, and you'll see that little icon, and you can go in and click that little icon within the box, and that will take you to the students' work, and this is what that looks like. And we can kind of see here on the side, again, a really kind of user-friendly and communicative platform where you can have a conversation, running a dialogue with the student on revisions of their work or of the work itself. I just wanted to give you a view of that, and that's where you'd enter your grade. Okay, so in terms of attendance, I know most schools, for instance, in Rochester City and at East High, we use Power School. But if you'd also like to keep attendance in Schoology, you can do that as well. If you're, having a hectic morning and it's a first period class that you're offering this, so you can go in and use the attendance feature to do that. This is the key that's built into that. It's really user-friendly, and I used it for quite some time when I piloted the course last spring. So it's optional, but I think it's really user-friendly. And you can also print it too, which is great. Okay. So just a couple other notes about the gradebook. If you hit the plus symbol here, you'll have this little window pop up. And within this window, you can go add in a grade column. It's very user-friendly. It's very easy to make edits within the gradebook on the fly here. So yeah, making modifications, great, way far and beyond the preloaded curriculum that you'll find in Schoology too. So if you want to add in your own assignments, your own activities, which OSU really encourages, as do I with the teachers I work with on this, it's pretty simple, pretty easy to do. Another thing is that with this gradebook, again, if your school is using something like Power School, for instance, you could go right in and download the grades in an Excel file and incorporate those into Power School, let's say, which is really great and super helpful. Okay. So we kind of ran through that a little bit, and again, I'm just trying to give a really great overview of the curriculum here. I'd be happy to go into more details at the end. So a topic that folks that I work with and talk to about EnvisionIT all the time that comes up, and I really wanted to hit on here, was modifying the curriculum, and I'm sure that's something that you guys have on the mind right now. So a few pieces to this that I want to discuss, just kind of general feedback on it, suggestions for modifying the curriculum in my own practice and in working with teachers, and this issue of the content itself and readability. So when we talk about EnvisionIT and when we talk about this curriculum, we refer to it as building and bolstering 21st century skills for our young people and for students taking this class. And just to get us all on the same page here, what we're really referring to and talking about is these life and career skills, learning and innovation skills, digital skills, and skills that are core to subjects in the 21st century, and making sure that thematically what we're bringing into this curriculum is reflective of that. So this is what it really looks like for us. It's with the EnvisionIT curriculum, we can see that we have this really amazing integration of Common Core standards, information technology, and computer literacy, and transition assessment and self-directed planning, all really built into this cogent package that does target these 21st century skills I just mentioned. But to flesh that out just a little bit here, I want to highlight the fact that this curriculum is designed for grades 8 through 12. OSU also does have versions of this that are broken down and specified for the younger grades too, so that you don't have to, break down this big curriculum and just servicing a lower school group of students or an upper school. A lot of those have already been kind of delineated out. So again, you can reach out, be happy to answer those questions or direct you to the folks at OSU for that. Teaching information communication technology skills, again, which is super important in really getting at this 21st century curricula focus here. Self-directed transition portfolio. So the idea that students really are guiding this process, and autonomy support is such an important thing in schools, and it's becoming such a big practice at East High in particular. And this really falls in line with providing that autonomy support to young people. And through many of the activities that are really student-centered, you do begin to match them with their interests, abilities, and personality in setting these career goals. So not just setting them, but doing so in a really meaningful way. And that's all under the guise of this rigorous embedding of Common Core standards in ELA, these national standards in literacy, career development, and financial literacy as well. And also the fact that that this is a inclusive curriculum. It's a really important thing to note here, that this is designed to be used and implemented with students with and without disabilities. So UDL is definitely a focus, and you can see that is conceptualized in the curriculum itself. So I'm going to kind of run through these, and again, you'll have access to this in the PDF that we're going to post on the IET website, and these links will all be clickable. But again, just to highlight the standards here for ELA, and the transition and self-determination standards here again from NASET. Back. Our information technology literacy standards here. I've got a reference for you to check out. Financial literacy, and right now the teacher that I'm working with who's implementing this at East is certified as a business educator, and she has taught for years and years and years a number of financial literacy based courses, personal finance in particular, and she has really enjoyed this explicit piece that's built into EnvisionIT, and has actually pulled out parts of it to use in some of her other classes, as well as integrating some of her background into EnvisionIT. So really, this piece I can assure you is not only relevant and super important, but really salient and high impact in this curriculum. So suggested modifications. These aren't questions or what I have posted here. Really, I'm not asking for you to answer them more or less, but in kind of thinking about and working with folks on this curriculum, these are things that have kind of come to mind, right? So when we talk about EnvisionIT, when we think about this curriculum, really you need to just consider the fact that this is for you. It's for your students. It's really designed to take a school and mold it and shape it to meet the needs of the populations that you're working with, right? So how might this curriculum work for you when you flip through the stratified site map and you've kind of seen what's going on there? Given what populations of students you typically work with, what makes sense? Are there certain pieces of this or units that you can see yourself stripping out and not using? And then what models do you currently have for transition in your school? These are all really, really important questions when attacking this curriculum, because it's all for you. You can make of it what you will, and use pieces as you'd like to, again, best service the needs of your students. But definitely, I think that the best outcome of this is taking pre-existing models, pre-existing content, and incorporating them into the curriculum. I don't think that using the curriculum all by itself is necessarily, in its most purest sense, a good thing. Especially if we're concerned about issues of sustainability and making sure that this becomes a part of the school that's being used in. Using what models do exist, what content and practices have worked with students, and really infusing those into EnvisionIT seems to me to make a lot of sense, but you can determine that. So content readability, this is just one thing that I do want to hit on really quickly before I move into the transition portfolio at the end. And again, all of these hyperlinks here that you see will be clickable in that PDF. But it's really important to note here that this curriculum is very text heavy. There is a lot of text-based content. There is some stuff that I would consider to be on a higher end of the reading level. And also this curricula is only in English. So these are things to consider when implementing it and working in spaces in schools with diverse populations of folks, especially ENL learners. I know at East, as a urban school, we have fairly large Hispanic, Nepali populations. I've worked with both of those on this class, and you just have to make those modifications and adaptions, to best meet their needs. So it's important to note here. And then the kind of the second part beyond, the importance of differentiated instruction is media. So, there's some really high quality media that is developed and explicitly embedded in this curricula. But I think it's really important to note the fact that it's limited. It's scattered well throughout and highlights some things in really important ways. But what I've really challenged teachers that I've worked with, and when I've piloted this course myself, is to bring in stuff that you've used before and actively seek things to really complement, again, the foundation that is the really solid foundation that is EIT. And I've got a couple examples here of videos that are embedded in this curriculum that your students would engage with, just so you can get a feeling for that. Okay, so again, moving on here to the transition portfolio. I know that we're a little bit behind, but hang with me here. Okay. So the three major things I want to cover with the transition portfolio, just because this is the seminal piece, this is that major summative deliverable that is a part of this course. I want to talk about what it is, what's really in it, and then ideas of scaffolding, because that's really something, and having taught the course and working with teachers who are implementing this, comes up. So really, what is this? What is the transition portfolio? It's this summative, cumulative product of the curriculum, and really what it is it's an explicit compilation of the completed activities that span all of the units of this curriculum. And examples of some of those activities are developing a resume and writing a career narrative. These are some of those really high impact things that you spend quite a few days in each one of these units going through, that ultimately gets wrapped into this transition portfolio. And really, what is its purpose? What purpose is it serving? Well, it really does assist students in the development of these realistic and meaningful goals at the high school level. But also, I'd say, beyond that, it affords them opportunities to directly apply what they're learning in meaningfully creating pieces for this transition portfolio, not only during the activity, but after the fact and assembling it. And through that, really challenging them to set, measurable post-secondary goals, and beyond the development of these goals that are realistic and meaningful is creating a plan, right? For how are we going to accomplish these things? So it's not only taps into the development, but also the planning of it, which I think is really invaluable. And ultimately, it's an artifact, right? It's something that students can take with them. Having taught this course with seniors who have gone on to college in post-secondary training, they've taken this with them. They've used it. I've had 10th graders who have left the course and gone on and used pieces of it to get a summer job. So this is really something that it's a living document, something that students take with them. So what's included in it? Again, you'll have access to this list. But the important thing to point out here is that it depends again on what are you using in this curriculum? What serves your students best based on when it can be taught, who's in your classroom. So it can include some or all of this. But here are a list of some explicit things. And then finally, scaffolding. So the question is, especially when you are trying to make it through the entire course in 1 year's time, you really have to consider the diversity of needs in the classroom when you are putting this together. The number of students, having 25 students and trying to work with them on creating this really robust and in-depth summative project can be challenging if they're all working on it without a structure in place necessarily, or significant scaffolding. And if you have a paraprofessional, or if you've got a co-teaching model in the classroom, what I recommend doing and what I kind of want to walk through in just a minute or two, just so that we can field questions for at least 10 minutes here, is a structure that I created and that I've passed on to teachers that I'm mentoring at East right now. So this is kind of what that looks like. So towards the end of the course, a big part of the transition portfolio was twofold. You as the instructor are encouraged in the curriculum to have the students present on this. If students or the population you're working with that's not feasible, or if it's not feasible for time purposes, you definitely don't have to. But for me, I kind of had two parallel things going in motion. I had the students organizing in really methodical ways the content that we built over the course of the term, but also building it into and letting this kind of PowerPoint structure guide that process. So I gave them this PowerPoint that they worked through. This is kind of the overview of what the PowerPoint looked like. And at the end of the year, they presented using these PowerPoints too. So the PowerPoint acted not only as a structure for organizing the content that I wanted to see students put together here, but it also created a structure for them to then present and talk about it. And this is an example of students, right? So he wanted to become a systems security analyst or a biomedical engineer. A couple other little pieces of it. I had students directly embed parts and assignments in the curriculum right into slides that they could refer to. And this was for an internship that the student was interested at, that he wrote up during the class in cybersecurity. He had this embedded right in his PowerPoint. Here's an example of the BARC results. This basically taps into students' learning styles, and they would put these right on PowerPoint and talk about them in front of their peers with respect to, where are their strengths. The student was kinesthetic and oral, for example. And then I had a slide where they discussed that. And again, in their portfolio itself, they had a far more fleshed out version of this in the actual activities and assignments, but for the purposes of the PowerPoints that they created for the end of the year, this was the content that they spoke to and used. And then, just going through and making sure that some questions are answered that they could talk about, how does, EIT, help at school and work? And, they would write up a little statement. Here's an example of one. Again, I've included this in the PDF that will be posted online, so you can kind of check this out. Students will talk about Plan A and Plan B. This is a theme that runs throughout the curriculum. But again, they spoke to this during the presentation at the end of the year. They created an explicit checklist of long-term and ongoing transition goals, which I think is really great that they craft themselves. Just in the sake of time, I do want to move us on to questions here. So let me just... Okay, so I've got the video on my end. If you'd like to show your video, feel free to do so. If not, that's perfectly fine. What I am going to do, though, is make sure that you guys are all unmuted so that you can. So you can feel free to chat. Or say whatever you'd like. At the bottom of your screen, one other thing is you'll see that there's a Manage Participants or Participants tab. If you click that, it should give you access to a toolbar, and from that toolbar, you can raise your hand if you want to say anything. So any questions? Yeah. Hey.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the transition portfolio, are those digital?
So yeah, they can be completely digital. In theory, the entire curriculum itself is web-based. So
Right.
If you are taking off pieces from there and making it more paper-oriented, certainly. But yeah, ultimately, what I encourage teachers to do and what I've done is, they have their PowerPoint that they create for the end of the year that kind of scaffolds the construction of it, and then they also have the digital piece that they can take away that has all of these components embedded in it.
Great, I like it.
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me?
Yeah. How's it going?
Hi, this is Andrew Buck, program manager at the Nisonger Center, one of the lead developers of the curriculum. So I just wanted to thank you. We really appreciate you delivering this webinar, and it was really well thought out and a great overview and explanation of everything. And I want to thank all the participants for taking the time to join and learn more about the course. I also wanted to let everyone know that we are working on updating the curriculum. So there's no major content revisions, although we are reformatting activity templates to make them more accessible. We also feel like they're more aesthetically pleasing and provide a better user-friendly experience for the students to engage in those activity worksheets, to collect that data, whether it be the age-appropriate transition assessment or their career research, those major components of the transition portfolio that you mentioned. We're now through Unit 7 of our updates, and that is now all available in our EnvisionIT Teachers Group resource library on Schoology. So I would be also more than happy to follow up with anyone with regards to creating a Schoology account and joining that group to gain access to those resources, and then even following up with course creation and importing the resources to start building and customizing your own course. So I'll add my email address to the chat box, and of course, Nick, you can work with anyone or forward messages to me as well to follow up and work with people that are interested in taking the next steps and using this in their classrooms.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. The one other thing, just to get back at you for a second, Kate, I was having some weird feedback with the muting and non-muting thing that I just wanted to touch upon with respect to the digital properties of the transition portfolio. And something to consider is, thinking about, how does your school store things with students? So, are you a Google school? Would everything go into a Google Drive? Would students use a flash drive to keep their portfolio? So, just again, something to really consider, just so that it is in a portable format. I know, at least for my students and the ones that were seniors and were leaving, having it in Google was really great, because they could easily take it and just kind of walk away with it, and ultimately and hopefully pull from it in their post-secondary training and in college. So just a little note there. Oh yeah, Kate. Ooh. Hi, Kate. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Did you raise your hand? Or
No, I'm sorry. I'm good.
okay, no worries. Yeah, I just saw your little hand raised.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, if there isn't anything else, it's perfectly fine. It looks like Andrew he put his email in the chat there. And again, we'll make sure that that we get this log posted, as well as this PDF that's associated with the webinar. So, well, thank you guys for attending. Really, really appreciate it. Again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Be happy to answer those. I know Andrew and the OSU team will as well. Okay. Well, thank you all. If you don't have any other questions, have a great rest of your day. Take care.